Welcome to the Alain Elkann interviews, an unprecedented window into the minds of some of the most well-known and respected figures of the last 25 years.
What is the name of this place where we are here? We are nearby Madrid, in the outskirts of Madrid, right?
For us, it's the place just to do a garden, but to be in contact with nature. Nature for us is the fundamental.
So you had your house nearby?
Our house built 30 years later, when we have our garden, the house, and the studio. A small studio separated by a courtyard. But the family began to grow, and Pedro and Fernando came, and they needed more space, and the studio needed more space. And we have this opportunity to build this garden with these 3 cubes. For us, are rocks in the middle of the garden. We think always in garden, not in architecture. Or we think first in garden, and after we adapt our life of the garden. And we adapt the architecture for the design of the garden.
But Fernando, you are a philosopher, right?
No, I am not a philosopher. I am a gardener.
You are a philosopher. Why did you become a gardener?
Why? I became a gardener because I study philosophy in the university. My chill house is surrounded by books and paintings and people with a lot of sensibility.
Your parents are?
My parents, my grandparents, my family in general. And the beauty is really fundamental. For us, it's impossible to live or to do things without the goal of beauty.
You were originally from Andalusia?
My mother is from Sevilla, and my father is from La Coruña. La Coruña is in the northwest.
And what were they doing?
There are mixed. There are people that do business, and very interesting business, always in relation with nature. My parent family. And overall, in my grandfather, in 1840, ha fatto do a very interesting business with 19 years. Said his father, I'd like to go to Cuba. Cuba was, in this moment, the most beautiful, interesting...
Your grandfather went to Cuba?
Yes. And with 19-year-old years, and the money of his father, and the father gave money to things, they began to do, for us, I discovered this 20 years later, to do a fabric of gas, to do the enlighten the city of Havana. And for us, it's very curious, because now, during the last 30 years, we developed the lanterns to enlighten gardens with the coppers and bronze lanterns. And for me, really, I am, when the time the circle is closed, no? My grandfather used lanterns to enlighten the city, and as we do now, in our small taller, small studio with the artisans, our lanterns in copper, like them, in copper, to enlighten gardens. And for me, I do this with never thinking in this. But I'm sorry, it's the name is Antonino. But Antonino do these first things, is enlighten the city of the Havana with the lanterns. It's not possible. We do, Pedro, me, and Fernando, in the last year, this line of object that we are very excited, no? And after this, that is a lot of success with this business, he began to be the most important cigar companies in Havana. And he has his own company, and afterwards, and partners with another tabaqueros. But this man was really, all the people have a very, very good, very kind souvenir, very kind memory. At the same time, all his sister painting very well, his sons writing very well, painting, and all the time with the history with the tobacco and the history of beauty. In the same case is the history of the family of my mother, because my grandfather was for Azar.
Strike of luck. It wasn't meant to be.
He has French friends in Sevilla that represent the grass essence for perfumes. And one day, friends asked my grandfather, "For you, will it be possible to do eau de cologne?" Oh, my grandfather, absolutely. It's so simple. And take the alcohol, take 2 drops of
this or that.
Ding, boing, ping, dong. And the friend said, you are Annie. And do you know that you are really Annie?
So you have the gift, no?
See, and you are this gift, and you need to really to develop. My grandfather, a man that in a special moment in Spain, the people work in special things, and discover his profession by
to make perfumes
and do a fabric of perfumes and Sevilla. One day before the civil war, discovered Ronda, and he's absolutely fall in love of Ronda and decide to live in Ronda. And all our life, the life of my mother and family, is surrounding Sevilla and Ronda in the mother family.
But your father's family stayed in Cuba? Or they came?
No. Only one man, the father of my family, came to Cuba. The fabric worked very well, all is very well, until the 30s with depression. Never of my family, member of my family, there returned to Havana. Between the administrador and the war.
Why did you study philosophy?
And because for us, read all the time and discuss was fundamental. Yes. To put this piece of cover here or here is a conversation of 2 days. Why not? Because it's here, and not I think it's all the time, just to arrive. And we read all the time poetry and literature and nature, and we go all the time to the countryside. And for me, life was read countryside and beauty, and probably have a profession just to ganarte la vida,
earn a living,
with honesty, no? Like the rest of my family. This is the goal, and the goal is to live honestly and enjoy with the beauty and nature. This is the simple goal, nothing more. For that, I think, all my friends is droit, business administration, more administrations, more business, more. And I'm sorry, I'm still philosophy. Well, philosophy, but you are crazy. And I began to, because this is I like to read. It's fantastic philosophy to read. And I was very curious when I very, very, very young, with 18, 19, I like to be a guarda forestale. Because I think, I am in nature. I have a small wood house, cabana, and I am horse to go to the nature and life very, very simple. When I decided to study philosophy, my family said, well, yes, probably, Fernando, do anything interesting. You go to study in Inglaterra or in French or United States, and probably he insists do anything interesting. Very good. And I have a professor of anthropology that began to do a seminary during 2 years about Euripides. And studied the etymology, and really an incredible man that influenced a lot me. I am a lot of master in my life, a lot, not 1 or 2. I have probably 7, 10 master in my life, and I'm continuing to have master. And this man, when I began to understand, and the Greek people, for them, la academia is the garden of academos. friend of Platon. The stoici erano di Platone che stavano peripatetici camminando sulle stoa, surrounded by the gardens in the agora. The Epicuro said it's not possible to understand outside of the garden. And for me, this phrase was, wow, I am discovered the link between my own life, spiritual life, and intellectual life, with my memories. Memories also of my childhood, of my...
being in Ronda in the countryside.
Exactly. You know Ronda? No. Ronda is a city.
It's in the edge of a cliff, and the river is overpassing, but it's just a cliff, like maybe 200 meters.
200 meters. And you need a bridge in the 17th century. The new city and the old city, all very old, both very old, but the new and the old. And it's this cliff, incredible. My grandfather, his house is in the old city, in front of the view. And we live all the time in front of this immensity of a space. That really, to me, I think, probably is the seat of my gardener mentality. Because I understand, for me, garden is a space.
Garden is a space.
It's a space. A space in the sense that understand the space. Understand that the space is geometry illuminated by the light. And when I have 10 years, I'm in front of this landscape, absolutely astonishing. Surprise, no? Like a baby in front of the immensity, you know. And for me, I think this connection with this house is exactly the memory of this moment. I am in higher, and we are in contact with the mountains.
The landscape.
And the relation with the sky. This is the same emotion when I arrive of this moment. I repeat this incredible emotion when I am very, very child.
When did you start becoming a gardener?
And with this professor, I began to understand that the Greek men, they don't understand life outside of gardens and in relation always with nature. Dio è morto. Nietzsche ha detto, questo è finito. The poetry is up here with the Second War. Philosophy is not interesting because the only thing that is really important is the technology. And I think this does not work. I studied for nothing in this moment. For me, for what? It's a really first incredible shock, intellectual shock. I discovered that I needed to go to the origins. Because in the origins I discovered probably the origins of knowledge that Epicuro and Platon said. And I began to read more and more pre-Socratic and post-Socratic. And Platon said in the Garden of Academus, the Accademia, nessuno passa chi non conosce bene la geometria. And for me it was another second sentence that decided my...
No one passes if
doesn't know the geometry. Because for them, geometry is a resume of knowledge. In one tetrahedron is a formula of knowledge to understand the space. And for me it was really definitive. For me it was absolutely, and I decided I arrived with my family another time, and I'm sorry, I like to be gardener. Como gardener? Como jardinero? And it's incredible. This day arrived one uncle of me that is given classes of Columbia University. I arrived at the house of my mother because my father are divorced, and I arrived in the house of my mother, and I said, Sofia, to be gardener, to be landscape architect is really a very important, it's a very serious
profession.
Please let Fernando to study this and to be gardener. And my mother said, but I pay the university and you pay to be gardener, to your studies. You work giving classes of mathematics or I don't know, with the children, and you pay your classes to
become gardener.
Yes, to become. And for me it was definitive. You know, when young people, put this, the young people is more active, no? And I do these classes, I pay my classes, but when I discover that in the second year they repeat the same things, I am so excited that I needed really to begin to be gardener. And I have another uncle, the people help all the time. Dad said, Fernando, I list to redo the garden of my house, the beginning, the entry. And if really you are a gardener, test with this small garden, and after you decide. And I do, with 21, this small garden of 70 meters square, outside of Madrid, in a very good place, in a house designed by Neutra, the Richard Neutra. It's like a Japanese pavilion, beautiful, and nothing. And I like this uncle is really an incredible man. He's one of my masters. For that, Pedro is named Pedro, for them, in memory of them. And I began to dream. When I designed, I have my first design of this garden with rocks. I like to represent in this 70 meters square with a small bridge that separates of the soil 20 centimeters to let pass the rocks, and representing the origins of the mountains, and when the mountains began to be colinas and hills and valley. And in the middle, also to pass to a house, is a very big piece of granite stone, 4 meters or 2 meters, very difficult to do, just to pass between the street, the gate, and the door of the house. During 3 months, I have in the mountains discovered these rocks, and I discovered. 3 months later, I am so happy. I speak with the men of the town, if it's possible to do permission to take the rocks in the mountain. Why not? Take the rocks. It's 40 years later.
40 years ago.
40 years ago. And I take the rocks, and when I take the last camion with the group
with the crane
to take, I appear la Guardia Civil. You are Fernando Caruncho? Yes. What do you do? Take the rocks. Take the rocks. Es un delito. Es un delito. But
I asked and they gave me permission.
They have a permission. You are crazy. To the police in the town. And I am police in the town. I pay a lot of money for this intervention in the landscape, and this first dream disappeared. But I spoke with my uncle. No problem. Think in another. This is very good for you. Think in another capability. And I said, first, I needed rocks. Speak with the people, the president of the hydrographic river, because are of the companies, to have the permission to take the rocks, because if that will be the same thing. And he speak with one friend and said, it's possible to go to this place. And I discover morenas de glaciar, big stones with the pressure of the ice during the last 2 million of years, and do incredible sculptural rocks. And I think another project that this stone is used for the first the Romans people arrived in Spain, the Celtiberic people do the estelas funerarias with these rocks. And there are a museum with these stelas, these rocks, for my daughter, I don't know the name, and
rest in peace.
The spirits are with her. So beautiful translation. One horse, right in the gravel stand, and leaf of betulas, of the trees. I see this in the museum, and I go to this part to correspond with the friends of them. And I take the rocks and I do the garden. And the garden was really very interesting. And I'm sorry for this is very long, this history. But for
your
me,
uncle was pleased.
I'm an uncle, says Fernando. I am so happy. You are really a gardener.
This was your first garden.
Yes. And after, I do the big garden inside. First entry. When this is very
garden.
it's possible to do the big garden inside of the house. And I do this garden, and it's finished. There are beautiful things between all paintings. I remember an armoire of the Juana la Loca, the daughter of Isabel la Católica. Incredible Renaissance Italian armoire, so beautiful that really there are things really beautiful things.
Because my granduncle was a very he collected very interesting pieces of Chinese art and
Japanese,
very rare things that he liked. So the house was very
mixed with contemporary. And I do this garden. The lawn disappear for a marble stone, and they inspire with a Japanese garden in Kyoto. The name is Shisendo. And I discovered that this garden corresponds with this space. And I asked my uncle, 6 of the morning, Tio Pedro, I have in my mind the garden. Came. He's a man, really very, very beautiful, fantastic man. And I go and I explain, we needed to do this. You think it's possible? Yes, absolutely. It's absolutely in my mind. Because after I needed to do. I take 3 years to do this small garden, but Marie-Paul Pellet était un journaliste de Vogue Décoration à Paris. Et elle vient pour faire un reportage sur la maison, the house of my uncle. And when Marie-Paul arrived, she said, but this garden is too by this man. What is really the person that do the garden? No. This young man. Yes. Fantastico. And she do incredible service in the Vogue Décoration. Il a disparu maintenant, il n'assistait pas déjà. And give more pages for the garden than for the house. And was really my first success.
And so you decided.
And I am sure that for me will be my profession for the rest of my life.
To do garden.
And I understand one thing that I don't know.
You have a special fil rouge. I mean, there is anything special in your doing gardens that is yours? Are your gardens similar?
I discovered one thing, Alain, to me, I said this with a lot of humility. No, it's nothing special. All the people have the gift of the life gift and personal gift. You are your personal gift. In Espanol, it's a don. It's a specific, unique thing that you have.
And what is your gift?
And I understand that I have the possibility, the capability to read the space.
To read the space.
Yes. What is that? Leggere lo spazio. Is arrive and begin to understand in geometrical point of view what is the significance of this space. And they produce in this moment an incredible connection between this place and me. But same with a person. When you read a person, when you understand what kind of person you are in front of you, there are people that have this capability to understand very quickly the connection. No? And I have this capability. And for me, it was a discovery. I don't know. It's not in my...
Yeah, but there are some things that are your landmark. You repeat. These geometries.
The basin,
you repeat. I mean, you have some symbols that you put in different...
Yes. This question is very, very interesting to speaking about garden, because during 20 years, my uncle said me, Fernando, you began to the end. I said, I don't understand. Tú estás empezando por el final.
Mm-hmm. You're beginning from the beginning.
Me? No. Really, I don't understand in this moment of my life. Now I begin to understand. My second garden was a garden of 4 hectares. The beginning, small, nothing, garden here in Madrid, an incredible space, 4 hectares in the middle of the countryside in Catalonia. And the client said me, Fernando, tomorrow I go to London. I needed for tomorrow one idea. What is your idea about to do the garden? I disappeared during 1 year, and when I came, I needed that the garden is finished. Is possible? And you said, yes, absolutely. It's possible. Yes. Why not? And I understand the situation, and I said, I am surrounded by incredible forest. I needed to do an empty space, ordered by a geometrical grid. I do with a pen in a small paper with a topographic and a transparent paper, and I do the design, and I explain, Eugenio is the name, Eugenio, I think this is the capabilities of this place. I see, beautiful, but very good. This is the name of the people of my administration. This is the team to build. This is the people for stand, for plan, electricians, and gardener. You work. You're speaking with this man of the money, and in 1 year I returned here to do the works. And during 20 years, I explained this for years. I work in the grid, the orthogonal reticula, and I understand the space in an orthogonal point of view all the time. During 20 years, I think this, and 20 years. During 20 years, I understand this. For me, Alain, it's like when you take a red net fisherman that take lanza la red, no, for the fish, and I have the possession that I take the red and I lanzo this red and appear incredible things. I open, wow, what is that? It's so beautiful, full of incredible, beautiful things. And the red began to be like a child. You remember when you were a child in the grid, cuadernos.
Mm-hmm. Notebooks.
Notebooks. And the A, the B, A, E, I, O, U. Another time, A, E, I, O, U. Another time, A, I, U. A, B, C, D, E. Light during 20 years. And I remember a garden, a silver garden with 40 years, that for me was really the great in the limit. In the limit, I said, this client said me, Fernando, I'm sorry, it's too much. And my client said,
You said you did your first garden, right, with your uncle, 2 gardens.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Way to work with the grid was my way during 20 years.
And then you changed?
And one day, in one garden, I arrived really to the limit of use the grid, the orthogonal. I am explaining with pictures, if not, it's very difficult, really. And I arrived really to the limit, intellectual limit. And I think this client don't have that never in this garden. It really isn't so abstract that they don't like it. And he said, yes, I like it very much, very good. And after this garden, that is the limit of the great geometry, I write my first project in the United States.
Project in the United States.
And with Legorreta. Legorreta is a Mexican architect for the client of Chicago. And my image, like gardener, is always the order of the geometrical reticula of gardens. And when I arrived to this place, in the place Alain, I know the scale model of the house, I imagine put in the place, and in this moment I discover that the grid is not possible in this project. And I began to understand the space in circular geometry. And for me it was the perception to see the reality in 30, 60 degrees.
360 degrees.
And I understand the space like a totality. And after the circle, arrived the ellipse, two circles with two centers. And in this moment, Alain, and for that I explain this, I'm sorry for my long explanation, but it's not, to me it's not easy to explain in English. And in this moment I understand that the grid was exactly the notebook of the children.
To understand the alphabet, in a way.
The alphabet. And I began to do a word, not only A, B, C, D. I began to do word. And after, sentence. And in this moment, in geometrical point of view, I understand that the totality of the geometry is the fundamental of our work. And for that, Platon said, here, please, don't enter anyone if they don't know geometry. Because geometry is a language. Before them, they're writing.
Right.
It's a mental language in the mind of the man. And in this moment, I understand that I am very free to read more and more the complexity of the space.
So you go with the space. What is the difference? That from square you went to circle?
Yes, because the square, is the place to put the circle inside. And after the elliptical form, and after the tetraedron, and after this mosaic, and these lanterns, because all is understanding in the grid. Because during 20 years, I don't know that I learn the space through.
Since then, your gardens have changed?
A lot.
Evolved, yeah.
A lot. Because my geometrical language, after these 20 years of grid, is more rich. I do sentence. I do including small poems. Because for me, my language, to be in contact with the place, is more and more rich. And there are more and more capabilities. But for that, I don't know, before, I needed 20 years, like a children, to understand little by little the vocabulary.
Letter by letter.
Letter by letter. And when you take this in relation with light, began one thing that this is the goal. Because why geometry? Why light?
You did many gardens, right?
Yes.
How many you did?
160. 160.
160.
Very short quantity of garden in 40 years.
And how many countries?
How many countries? In Europe, Italy, France, England, Spain, Turkey, Morocco, New Zealand, United States, Japan. I don't remember. Italy,
Countries.
Tanti, in Italy. But Alain, the last thing for the people that understand, why is the geometry, why is it important? Why is important the light? All two things are very important because they produce movement, vibration of light. When you arrive to Bañaya, it's very similar to Alhambra, there are a vibration of light in the air. You are in this place, but your mind is surrounding for incredible vibration of light. This vibration of light is in relation with the geometry and lighting. And this mix in relation with green, nature, produce a vibration of light. And this is the magical moment of garden.
What is the magical moment of garden?
When light, geometry, and nature work together and produce in the air a vibration of light.
But all gardens are different.
All gardens are different. It is not possible to do the same garden in another space. Absolutely will be a false garden because the geometry and lighting of this space are absolutely different. And the result of this vibration of light will be possible or not. And normally it's not possible to repeat.
So what do you do? Aesthetics? What do you try to do in the garden?
I try to be in contact with the place. I believe absolutely in genius losses. Absolutely, more and more. And all the space, including the more destroyed and the more poor, ugly space, is full of genius losses, genio, imposter.
So any place?
Any place has its beauty, because the beauty is not in the place, it is in the light. And I think that the genius losses, in reality, is the genius lux. The genius is in the light.
And what about the trees?
See, yes, fundamental.
About
vegetation. It's the third part of the garden that is fundamental. But it's possible to have a garden without any plant. If you are light, geometry, and water.
That's very Japanese.
For me, this room is a garden.
So what is a garden?
Garden is a spiritual, emotional state. But the question is that if you are the incredible luck to have a tree, this began to be a paradise. Because it's the tree that connecting us between the earth and the sky.
So you don't put many trees in your garden?
I put a lot, but always in relation with the empty space. The balance with the empty and the full spaces in garden is fundamental. If you don't have this balance, this vibration of light began to don't work. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of gardens that this vibration of light don't exist. And probably there are a lot of gardens, a lot of trees that is not produce this vibration of light.
Vegetation does not make a garden be a garden.
It's exactly, I insist in this, Alain.
What is the perfect garden for you?
Rayonhi in Kyoto. Chantilly, to me, is a masterpiece of Le Notre. And small gardens also.
And in Italy?
In Italy, I like so much.
Gamberaia?
Boboli, Gamberaia, Bomarzo. Amazing. Incredible. It's so different, but really very interesting. You know, for me, in a very humble point of view, but I have 62, and to me, I like to transmit really the thing that for me, are fundamentals.
You are 62?
Yes. I am exactly the time to speaking clear, to speaking with absolute freedom. Always I have this perception, but now more. For me, I think it's a moral question, the transmission of the real through things. Speaking really seriously, speaking for the young people to understand that the art is a discipline that is not it's magnificent, but you need to be disciplined and to be very encouraged.
Going back to your gardens, why these gardens are perfect?
Because there are vibration of light. When you're sitting in this place, you are absolutely hypnotic. You are 1 hour, and you see the people, the young people, the people with 18 years. sitting in front of the rocks 1 year, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. They
Walk back and forth.
after the time they sit, and they are absolutely outside of the real time. They stop the time, and they, to me, return of own being, because they recognize origins of the origins of his life.
What is the purpose of a gardener?
To link with you through the nature, and at the same time to be in relation with the total perception of life. Perception that you are really part of incredible, perfect place that is the cosmos.
Do you ever do a public garden?
I don't like it, because it discussed with politics. For me, it's really very difficult.
So
what about the public gardens?
I do
By public gardens, I mean Hyde Park.
I know there are, but Hyde Park is a place. You know,
in Roma, La Borghese. You know, I mean the public
no,
garden.
El Retiro. But you know, there are in the beginning private gardens. The problem is that it's
And how do you handle a garden? How do you live with it?
We do 2 public gardens. The last piece of the Real Jardín Botánico de Madrid,
just near to the Prado, very close.
just next to the Prado, and the Potin Foundation with Renzo Piano. He called me just in the moment that they began to understand that the building is in the middle of nothing, and they needed the link between the city, the building, and the sea. And this don't work because it's interrupted. And there are a very old garden of 1 century with 2 hectares, and we transform in garden of 5 hectares that do the transition between the city, the building, and the bay.
And going back to the public garden, it's not that we don't like the public gardens, it is that the dynamics of making a public garden end up by destroying the original idea of the garden. So that's why the public gardens that we like were in a dynamic where not the politics and the lots of interest were crossed, ending up making something that didn't make any sense. There was a true will, and people were very encouraged with the final goal of making.
And think in years, and think in 20 years,
not in
30 years, not in 4 years for the next election. And this is the real problem with the public garden, because they think in a short time, and we needed to think in a long term. And the politician before and the elite of the countries in Europe think in long term, and now the people normally, there are exceptions, but they think in short time.
That's why we have.
For us, will be the best. For this, we like to do a small garden in these small towns to put together
in
the countryside. But the politicians don't have time to think in long terms. And garden need a retiro.
In the world of today, what is the place of the garden?
The place of the garden, I think, is really, really, really very important. And not important because our profession is important. No. It's important because the people needed to recuperate the enthusiasm and the dignity to be human. And the gardens produce immediately this connection between the people. Very simple, very quickly, very happy, and very authentic. The High Line of New York is nothing. It's a flowers and plants in the middle of the rail, and change one part of the New York.
Central
Park, Hyde Park, St. James Park. The people need to think that the garden is a fundamental of the life of the man. It's a fundamental. It's not a thing, decoration that to do with simpatico or no. Need to be anything important, including if it's a very small corner, including if it's a tree with a small fountain. We don't need it. Incredible bigger things. No. Including with the small details. Just with a child is happy in the shadow of the tree. It is in connection with nature. And the city needed to change the direction and to introduce the nature in the middle of the architecture. The balance is too much architecture and nothing garden. And this destroyed the idea to be happy in a city.
The garden is difficult to keep, to maintain.
If the structure is good, it's very happy. It's very easy. You need to make very well the drainage, the deep of the topsoil with a lot of quality, the adaptation of the species of the space. This is fundamental. We don't need it to place plants of New Zealand to go to Modena or plants of Modena to go to Qatar. No, there are ecosystems that are perfectly to do an incredible, amazing garden with a lot of simplicity. Because it's not question of species of plant if you work with the species of the place. It's question of order with geometry and lighting that do with the trees and other plants this magical movement, this magical perception of a space.
You still have an ideal garden that you didn't make?
Oh, a lot. In reality, it's true all the time that arrive a project with the person that we are affinity is so magic moment that for us is a principle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the ideal project of the...
If there are affinity between the place and the owner, and the enthusiasm between both is succeeding, the emotion is amazing because it's an incredible human experience to do a garden. I think you don't understand anything if you don't do a garden, including this 20 meters square. In Cordoba, Alain, there are the popular people, have couriers of 20 meters, square meters. In all, when the people speaking about the vertical garden, and to me, really, I am smiling because like a new thing, is invented for the humans. I don't know, 30,000 years when the people put a small pot in the wall, to be with nature, surrounding for perfumes and plants, with a small fountain and probably a small orange tree. And this is a paradise. You don't need it 20 hectares to do a paradise. You needed a mental state, a spiritual state. In this moment began the garden. I like to tell one small history that explains very well probably all of these things that we speak in during 1 hour. There are an history that a Spanish señor español called the architect because he liked to do a house. And he said, please, first you plant a tree. Second, you put a small fountain in just near the tree. After, you do a loggia. And if you have space, you do my room to sleep. This is the Spanish mentality of the old people in Spain. And for me, it really is a very incredible resume of that I transmit in my memories, and I like to transmit, and I transmit during the last 25 years of Pedro, that live in relation with nature through the garden.
And what about the orchard?
Yes.
De los huertos.
The orchard. We do. In the last project in Portugal,
This is not a garden, or it is.
absolutely, it's part of a garden. It's part of a garden. We enter now in a more concrete conversation. We are in the earth, in the idea, and now we begin to speaking about the part of the gardens. A garden is a mental, spiritual construction through geometry and light. Garden is exactly the space to return to yourself, a wall of contemplation, and is directly in relation with the landscape, mountains or valleys or I don't know,
Or sky.
sky. This is garden, and you think really the life is so beautiful. When you are in front of this, you think and you feel really the life is so beautiful. Well, second, there are the orchard. The orchard is an enclosing space, enclosed space when you work next to the soil in search of the most incredible, beautiful, and nice product
Gift.
that the soil gives you, and is the place to enjoy physical in the garden is a mental, and when you arrive to the orchard, it's really the physical space when the garden give you
The fruit.
the fruit of the land, with trees and tomatoes and beans and a lot of incredible
Or roses.
roses, because for us the roses and flowers, in our point of view, form part of the orchard. Well, a lot of reasons, aesthetic, but overall biological, because there are a lot of plants, flowers, in the sense of flowers, lavanda and others and others, that produce symbiosis with the orchard product, tomatoes and beans, and they live very well together. In the old time, go to the vineyard meant go to the garden. And for that, of this incredible product that the soil do is part fundamental of another layer of the garden, because the garden are different levels of comprehension.
You're good at orchards?
Is it simple? Yes. Is it tomatoes, beans, calabazas, and roses, and orange trees?
It depends on the time you have. The vacation
Yes,
you
it
have.
depends. Over all the time. It's in the spring, 10 degrees, your orchard is destroyed, and it's in August, it's 42, the orchard is nothing. But if the time is good, and the preparation of drainage and soil of its irrigation system is good, it's not complicated.
So the landscape is complicated.
Landscape is complicated. No, landscape is a pleasure. Landscape is the most thing that is possible to do. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. It's really enjoy. For us, Pedro, for Pedro and for me, it's really a challenge. But we enjoy a lot.
How is it to work with architects?
There are two types of, in general, to speak in more, some sort of simplification. But there are the architect that is really understand very well that the garden is part fundamental of the architecture. For example, Renzo Piano, for example, Legorreta. And they think that the garden connected the building with the land. Normally, there are the big masters that understand very well this. Legorreta, Renzo. With Renzo, in 5 minutes, we speak all. We speaking about another things that for us is more exciting, including in 5 minutes. And in 5 minutes, we understand very well with Leroy or with Legorreta. It's very easy.
How many you do not many projects?
No, we do 4 or 5 projects in a year. We don't like to have We like really to do personally all the gardens, and in the beginning to the end. Our maximum of people that we control to do this, our project is 15 maximum.
So now what you are doing?
Now we're doing a project in New York.
Project in New York.
The project in
Chianti.
The project in New York?
Project in
one in Portugal, you said?
In
one in Portugal, another in Chianti.
Where?
In Panzano.
There's always a time when the projects overlapping, because the projects are very long-term projects. For example, this project in Normandia, we have been now working 3 years, and the project in Portugal has been 4 years. The project in Chianti is the second year. So there's always, we make 4 new projects, but there's always 12 ongoing projects, more or less. One finishing, the others beginning.
What do you do? You just do the project and then somebody does it, or you go in the cantiere and you say this?
The people of the place.
What?
Yes. So we make the project in the scale model, and then we make the plans, not the opposite way. No. So we build and think the project in the scale model. That's why they're so big. And then we make the plans out of the project that came out in the scale model. And then what we do is have a local team, so they implement the project, and then we go very often to the cantiere to see how the project is going.
You do everything from here?
Yes. And yes, and then we have the small office in...
How many people are working with you?
Now, not 10. We are maximum that we control, because a question of control will be 15.
Here in the office.
But it's not everyone for the projects, because we have the projects, but then we have the lamps that we have that we make in here. So we have 3 people working on the lamps, and then
with 3 artisans that we present after.
You have 3 architects.
We have 3 architects and as well a team that connects the client with us and everything. And then we have 3 artisans that make these objects in here. So
the people that do the scheme.
Yes.
But this is artisan made?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, in here, in the studio.
And it's Grégoire that is represent us in Paris with all these. We are as very small, nothing, with Tino Serboudakis that is a decorator, and we share a space together
in
Paraguayan, and we are a small apartment.
With whom you share?
Tino Serboudakis.
He's
a very good Greek decorator.
Interior designer, very well.
Very good, very, very nice.
And you have 2 sons?
Yes, Fernando, 28, and Pedro, 25.
Fernando like you?
Fernando like me. Typically Spanish.
28?
28, Pedro, 25, both architects. Pedro work together absolutely full all the time.
Yes, since I was very, very young. Yeah, probably since 15 or something like that.
Yes, you do with Fernando the scale models.
But Fernando is more an architect?
No, I think we both studied architecture because it is a very good thing to study, because it opens your mind and it's very heterogeneous in what you study and what you can do. But we are both very educated as gardeners. So yes, I mean, because the language is the same. In the end, one could think that being a gardener is knowing how to do things with plants, but it's not like this. It's knowing how to generate this with this combination of geometry.
Well,
light.
How do you study? Visiting many gardens?
Mm-hmm. Yes, being raised in a garden and visiting many. Every summer we go to a different place and discover new gardens. And
you have new ideas.
Yes. Always reading.
In books, in old books, in new books. We are inspiring all the time. Not all the weeks, all the time. Inspiring in the beauty thing that the people do. And
not all the time in gardens.
But
art, painting, poetry.
But you're very Spanish, but you don't work mostly in Spain, right?
No.
The last year, no. The
last 10 years.
Overall outside.
Outside.
For them. But we now began to work in Spain another time. We finished a project in Ibiza, where we came in Ibiza.
You just did it?
Yes, just it's finished the last spring. We do two small projects, but with 4 friends. But it's really beautiful places, smaller, huh? What?
In Madrid?
In Madrid, in El Viso. El Viso is a small place with villas in Madrid. And we do this project in Catalonia with a garden in relation with agriculture. And one thing that is important to say to you, that one of the last projects most important that we do is do in Apulia. For us, it's really a project that is very significant.
Alain Elkann interviews.